From a transgender woman being murdered in North Charleston last month to health care, I sat down exclusively with South Carolina State Representative David Mack for the special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Listen to this interview Friday on my free Quintin's Close-Ups iHeartRadio podcast. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Representative David Mack, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Always good to be with you, Quintin.
I appreciate it greatly. The last time I spoke with you was on my birthday, October 15th, 2018. Obviously, you've been in the South Carolina House of Representatives since 1997.
All right.
What is the biggest difference between 1997 and 2019 in your mind?
Loaded question, but I think the key thing is, unfortunately, with the Trump era, we are being drawn so much to a very, very conservative, right-wing, even in some cases racist agenda, and that's very problematic.
How's that agenda affecting your voting and your legislation in Columbia?
Well, in terms of myself and my colleagues, we're pretty consistent in terms of things that we care about. We care about people having health care. We care about everyone having a good educational system for their children. We care about people having a decent place to live. We care about people getting decent wages so they can put food in the refrigerator. Quality of life issues. And that's very key. Some folks will say, well, that's a very liberal agenda. Well, I personally don't mind being called a liberal because liberals fought to end slavery. Liberals fought for women to have the right to vote. So we get caught up in these labels, but it's a matter of, to me, quality of life. What's the right thing to do for everybody?
What is the quality of life right now in your district?
I think all over South Carolina, including my district, people are having challenges. People are having challenges as relates to, example, being able to pay their mortgage, being able to pay their rent, being able to put food in the refrigerator, being able to go to the doctor when they're not well. Again, quality of life issues. There's a thing that I call the Big Eight. The Big Eight are expenses people will have throughout life, no matter how old they get. Lights, insurance, taxes, food, house, car, water, phone, car, transportation, basically. And folks are having trouble with those basic things, and we don't have to live in a society like that.
You talk about, obviously, public transportation. That's some trouble that a lot of people are having right now with that. What is the future of public transportation in Charleston County?
Charleston is a transition. We've got 55 to 60 people moving in per day. That's not even counting the tourists. So we're going to have to really upgrade, revamp our transportational system, our roads, and our entire infrastructure. But along with that, we have to make sure that people are getting a decent wage. And by the way, there's been studies done in areas in San Francisco where they've raised the minimum wage substantially. And immediately, businesses started to benefit from that, small business, because when people have extra money, they spend it. And they spend it with businesses that are close to them. So it's a win-win situation. I believe logistically we can get it done. We have to have the will and desire to do it.
Where's that will and desire right now?
It's not with the majority of the state legislature, nor in Washington. I think that we have too many people beholding to big corporations, large businesses. Healthcare in this country is a big challenge because of the big pharmaceutical companies and what have you. I mean, people are dying because they can't even get insulin. And I'm talking about otherwise healthy 20, 30-year-olds are dying because insulin is so expensive. It's, I think, around $250 per vial, and they may need 3 or 4 vials with a certain type of diabetes in order to survive, and people can't afford that. We can do better than that.
How many more challenges do you have with healthcare in South Carolina?
The challenges are basically people getting access to care. One of the biggest mistakes we've made, and I've just finished my 23rd year in the South Carolina State Legislature. The biggest mistake I've seen us make was turn down money for Medicaid expansion. We've closed 4 rural hospitals. We have had many people to die, many people to suffer, and it's also we've turned down it cost us about close to 50,000 jobs, well-paying jobs, and we didn't save any money. The money just went to other states. So that was insanity to me. So again, I want the public to be aware, because we as elected officials, we work for you. Hold us accountable, not only at the state legislature, but Congress, county council, city council, school board, any elected official, we work for you. Hold us accountable, but in order to do that, you have to have develop the knowledge of what's important for individually and collectively for all people as relates to quality of life.
What else is important when it comes to quality of life in your district?
Well, I think I named them. I mean, you want people to be able to make a decent wage. You want jobs, you want people to make a decent wage so that they can handle their personal affairs, that they can properly raise their family, so they can properly raise their children. Another aspect is daycare. Daycare is so expensive. How do we work around that? We have students that are doing poorly in school, and when you look at the record, their families are being evicted 3 or 4 times during the school year, so they do not have a stable environment to function in, not only to study in, but to live in. If a child's being evicted 3-4 times a year, if the family's being evicted 3 or 4 times a year, a child is moving, they feel the tension, they feel the frustration, there's no stability. It makes it tougher for them to reach their academic capabilities.
And obviously, as you know, there's been a lot of studies out there that says, hey, one of the most highest eviction rates are in North Charleston. When you hear that, where does your mind go to?
The basic, and really one of the reasons it's in North Charleston, because folks can't afford to live in Charleston anymore. The peninsula where I grew up on Fishman Street and then Poplar Street, right in the peninsula of Charleston, where we are now, where we're filming this. A lot of folks are moving from Charleston to North Charleston, and again, the eviction rate points to not having enough money. Right now, if you look at stores, you go into drug stores, convenience stores, they have things like deodorant on lockdown, women feminine products on lockdown, things that people, these are not quote unquote worldly criminals. These are people that are taking things to survive. Things like women feminine products to survive, and that should cause all of us a lot of pain, and that's where we are, unfortunately. And again, we can do better than that.
Let me stay in North Charleston, actually, because obviously we heard the devastating news about this a couple of weeks ago, and this is a headline from CNN. North Charleston police investigate fatal shooting of transgender women. A transgender woman that is, was fatally shot in North Charleston, in South Carolina, over the weekend, and this goes back to July 23rd. Denali Stuckey's 29 of Charleston was found dead on the shoulder of a road after 4 a.m. on Saturday. The incident was initially reported to police as a possible auto pedestrian accident, but police found Stuckey suffering from a gunshot wound. When you think of transgenders and their safety, particularly in North Charleston, where does your mind go to with that?
It goes to protecting human beings, period. Whether they're transgender, male, female, Democrat, Republican, regardless of their race, it's a human being. We need to treat people as human beings. The crime situation in North Charleston is very, very bad. Of course, crime is tied into poverty, and as we talked about, the eviction rate and poverty and what have you. But it has to be dealt with. It's being worked on a lot of different levels. But I think we have to begin to deal with the economics of it across the board. That was a horrible tragedy, as well as all the other murders that are taking place in North Charleston. It's very, very problematic, but I think we have to be able to and people are doing it, working with young folks, working with communities, building relationships between law enforcement and community leaders and people in the community, so that there is a relationship that we quote unquote go after the bad guys. And I don't care whether the bad guys are black, white, Asian, Latino, Native American, it doesn't matter. Bad people are bad people. And we have to really classify that segment of bad people regardless of their background. You know, when folks use the term, well, you know, black on black crime, I never use that term because people kill people closest to them. Blacks mostly kill blacks. Whites mostly kill whites. Asians mostly kill Asians. There are Korean gangs in the northeast part of our country, and guess who they kill? Mostly Koreans. So again, we have to deal with crime as it is and work to correct it from that standpoint.
On what level is the state dealing with this hate crime?
There have been bills put in as relates to crime period, and hate crime is, you know, all hate crime is one. But what happens, and again, I'm a minority within a minority in the state legislature, there are certain signals that the majority doesn't like to deal with hate crime, whether it's race, whether it's gender or whatever, transgender, whatever. People tend to stay away from that. And that's problematic because crime is crime, and we need to deal with this crime just like we deal with any other crime. It's wrong, we need to deal with it.
The Nuclear Project. This is from WCBD.com. The push continues to refund ratepayers, that is, for the Nuclear Project fiasco. Wednesday marked 2 years since Santee Cooper and SCG parent company SCANA abandoned the project just north of Columbia. Dominion Energy, that is, took over the company back in December. Ratepayers paid an extra 18% on their monthly electric bills to cover the costs associated with abandoning the nuclear plant. A judge decided more than 1 million customers would split $146 million. Roughly $60 million in checks will be mailed to customers of Dominion Energy South Carolina, who paid more than $2 billion for a project that never generated power. When you break those numbers down, how much will the average taxpayer get back?
Not enough. Not enough. And I said from the very beginning, and I was on the committee dealing with this when it first happened, and it should never have gotten to $9 billion. 9 with a B. There's a report called the Becknell Report. Right. And with the Becknell Report, they had detailed information that was in real time when it was going bad, and that was ignored. That is very, very problematic. You know, you had a lot of people coming in, they were working, they were thinking about shareholders and all of this stuff. So that's very problematic. What I've told folks about this, I personally have two concerns. Number one, the ratepayer. Now, we're not going to be quote unquote made whole. I'm a politician that'll tell it to you straight. We're not going to be quote unquote be made whole. There's going to be a price to pay. We talk about $9 billion, and it's a shame. But we should look at how do we do as best as possible by the ratepayer. Number two, from SCANA to Dominion, and then what to do with Santee Cooper. I'm then concerned about the employees, that they continue to have a job, they continue to have their pension and retirement in place as we transition, how we transition. Santee Cooper, of course, is still up in the air. With SCANA, we went to Dominion. Right. Now, people need not be confused. This money they're getting is not the money promised by Dominion. Right. It's not that. That they, you know, and I had a problem with Dominion doing that because I believe they knew that was not going to happen. That's not going to happen. But this is based on beginning part of the whole fiasco to work to begin the process of making people whole. But again, they're not going to be made whole by this whole thing. It should never have happened. We're all paying for it, and it's a bad thing.
Was it a bad thing to hire a Santee Cooper CEO?
Well, you know, whether hiring him or not, you know, you have to look at that. But I believe what was done I go back to what was done, and the folks in place need to be held accountable. And what was done, again, reports was coming back that this nuclear project was going sideways very early. It was not proceeding right. It was not going to turn out right, and they ignored it. Again, that Becknell report, a very detailed report. People watching can go and Google it, look it up, read it, and again, like I said, in real time, they were telling you that this thing was going south.
When you were Googling and reading, when people were Googling, reading, and hearing about the situation with the University of South Carolina presidential search, what was going through your mind?
Well, I relied a lot on the alumni from the University of South Carolina, and I think you should look at the alumni. You should look at the students, and I think that there is a problem with. I had a problem with the governor kind of strong arming this thing to say this is what we're going to do. Got directly involved. This is what we want, and most folks didn't want it. And I think that, this is going to be kind of controversial to say, but you know me. I think with regards to these universities, with a lot of them, when they don't do what they're supposed to do academically, the leverage that a lot of folks have, especially in the black community, is athletics. And then I question whether some of these athletes should go there, these star athletes who they want should go there when they have situations like that. But again, that's a consciousness aspect as relates to, and I'm talking now about being black, being African American. You just don't go there to play. Is the school creating a culture that's good for African Americans? For example, and this is kind of going on a side thing, but it really irritated me. Duke's basketball coach,
right?
And he's never taken a political view until President Obama got in office, and he came out verbally against President Obama in a lot of different ways, and he makes his money off of black athletes. So I'm just saying that all that should be considered when black athletes go to these schools.
Would you support taking the governor off the board of trustees when it comes to the future votes of presidents at colleges and universities?
I would be supportive of that.
And who would you join in as far as getting this co-sponsored?
Well, again, people have to look, and again, I would look to the alumni of USC.
Okay.
And I have several colleagues that I have a great deal of respect for that are alumni of the University of South Carolina that had problems with that. So I would take their lead on that, but yeah, I would be supportive of that.
Between now and the next legislative session in January, what are the bills that you hope that you'll get pushed through next year?
So many. The bills will raise the minimum wage.
Okay.
Call center bill, inclusionary housing bill, a bill to help create areas for housing. One of the challenges is that and these are basically Democratic bills, but the Democrats are very much in the minority in the state legislature, which makes it very, very tough. But again, these are our values. These are our present day values in the Democratic Party. And what I tell folks all the time, Quintin, this is business. What's in your best interest? The Democratic Party is not a religion. Had I been born before 1948, I would have been a Republican. Why? Because at that point, the Republican Party was in our best interest. And not just black folk, working folk.
Okay.
Working folks. And that's one of the things that we're going to have to be able to do. Form a coalition, whether you're black, white, Asian, Latino, Native American, form a coalition of people around values. Values, as I said at the beginning, that reflect working people. If you work a job and you get a paycheck and you have a pension, you should be supportive of labor, because labor got you those things. Labor got you, all of us in this country, weekends off, pension programs, retirement programs, health care. Labor got that. Decades ago, folks in factories used to wear diapers diapers because they couldn't take a bathroom break. They're working on assembly lines, you know. So it was unions that and labor that brought dignity back, that brought dignity to the workforce, where you could bargain collectively and get treated with dignity and respect. But again, the labels people put on it, people say, "Oh, that's liberal," and you know, so we have to grow into that.
Representative David Mack, thank you so much for your time, and again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Always good to be with you, Quintin. Take care.
Likewise.
All right.